This is episode number 374 of WP Water Cooler, Google's push to add stories to your WordPress website. Brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out over at serverpress.com. Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Does this mean I get to say my name again?
You could say your name.
Because I really miss saying WordPress. I enjoy saying that. It gives me pleasure.
You were always allowed to.
Oh, I make WordPress teacher.
Why don't you just talk about yourself in the third person the whole show?
Say things like interesting proposals.
Oh
Say enjoys improv challenges.
I like it. This is good.
Long walks on the
This
beach.
isn't annoying. This isn't annoying at all.
No,
not at all.
Say's totally going to be able to keep this up.
Oh boy. Yeah.
What did you do? What did Steve do? Because what did you do is third person. So what did Steve do?
What did I do?
Oh no, this is terrible. Sorry, everyone.
Oh my goodness.
What's the topic today? Do we have a topic?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about web stories. And,
yeah, it's like your point of view. Like, do you tell your story from a third person or first person? See, that was planned. You didn't even know. What?
Well,
drop
I
it.
don't know. I think this is a pretty good. I think this is a pretty good topic because, and you know, Cosper was saying this in the pre-show, but the idea that like every single social media network has somehow put in stories, including LinkedIn. Like everyone now has a way of putting in a story. I mean, Steve, you've been updating your
Yeah, once a year.
once a year, right? With the annual blog post, just kind of add them all together.
Yeah, I think stories are stupid, but anyway, people like.
Well, I love Instagram stories, but I have a lot to say on all of these things. Lots. So let's talk about what we're talking about. Okay, so basically, Google has recently, the past month or so or something, launched a 2 months? I don't know, whatever. Launched a plugin called Google Web Stories for WordPress.
Yes.
And it essentially allows you to post stories, which, by the way, that's not copyrighted is what the thing, like, so it's stories no matter what platform you're on, because I guess stories is too universal of a concept. No one is able to copyright it, you know?
Right.
Like liking and favoriting and all those things. No one tried to differentiate. It's just stories. It's what everyone's calling it.
Essentially, it's your own self-hosted Instagram.
Which is great. In general, I think that's awesome because anything that gets us a little bit away from the Zuck is a great plan. I have a lot of thoughts about how this translates to the platform. Yeah, you can see it happening there. Here's the thing about Instagram stories. It's really easy and it's super fun. And this looks more like Canva, a cross between like Canva and Photoshop, which, you know, not terrible, but it's not fun and simple and easy. And you're not just like, boop, 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 add some stickers. You know, like it's not nearly.
I have some stuff to say.
I want to tell you about this. And, you know, like it looks like a lot of work. Like it's great and you can do the graphics and whatever. And so that's cool. I've actually wished there was something like this for so long. But it's like not the whole thing about stories, which I think all of the developers miss, and I think this is the key problem, is they probably don't use them. They're just like, look at, people are using these, let's make more of them. But the whole point that they're missing is it's so easy to use and it's fun and you can just go, whip, whip, you know, and it's all like finger-based.
Cool.
No, it's boring and you have to like, you know, it's not as much fun. People want to use their fingers.
And it's, I don't know, like, is there like SEO merit to this? Like, is someone going to be able to go and find this? And when they do they go to your website and now it looks like something totally different than your normal website?
Well, this is actually something that Morten Rand Hendrickson has been kind of ranting about for some time in terms of like how all of the text of the internet, including like tweets or Facebook posts or web blog posts, are getting basically imagified, kind of like those emails that those people got on that thing that I feel like I'm just spreaded, but they're bad. Oh, ignore all that. Point is, the images, the texts are being taking something off of the web, which is indexable and putting it into a format that is not indexable because it's an image. So this is the main problem.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I mean, you are actually making indexable content. This is effectively putting a fresh coat of paint on Google AMP. And as we all know, default Google AMP stories are kind of low-key ugly.
Yeah, they're all ugly. But so you can index the text that you put on there. Like because it's Google, they're basically keeping that text indexable.
Yes. And
happening?
Indexable. Jason, if you can try to select it, I mean, see if you can actually. I tried to,
and it kept sliding, so it doesn't let me now.
But I don't know if that's a real story.
But it's selectable. It's selectable text. Yeah, it's actual selectable text.
So, but like if you've used Snapchat,
that's a huge difference. It's a huge difference.
Right. If you use Snapchat, if you browse down, like when you're looking at your friend stories, they also have like stories from content partners. Like, so you can see what Vice has to say about the last presidential debate or whatever. But they all look like this that Jason's showing off right now. They all kind of have this, video or slow zoom picture background with a little bit of text over it. It looks interesting. However, I mean, it's like I said, it's just pretty AMP. And as Jason's scrolling through this example story, it reminds me of those. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I find this personally annoying. Those slideshow stories where it's like the top 10 this or whatever, and you have to click through on each slide.
Clickbait.
Yeah. This is.
I love the story format that's really been. I would like to say that it's been expanding, but like I feel like everyone wants it to expand, but it's like just this niche. And I don't mean stories like this, particular format. I mean this, telling stories. Like I've seen some really beautifully done web articles done with CSS, in a beautiful scrolling format that changes you go along and really well done. But honestly, I think it's just the cost of producing that because of the time that it takes to produce it makes that prohibitive, especially for, your average person, certainly not the cat blog. This kind of brings that capability into a more accessible format. And I'm all for making AMP prettier and the web prettier. And, people are, even websites, they're, they look dated a lot of the time compared to stories or something that's much more fluid. So, I mean, I like half love this and half hate it. I love it because I love the direction that's going in. I hate it because it's clunky. And the whole point is that stories isn't clunky.
It's ultra awkward when you're doing this. I'm on a computer doing this. It's super duper awkward doing this on a computer because it's like the whole page loads up. I don't know if you guys have been on Facebook recently, but like Facebook's interface is like, if you're on a 4K monitor, which is what I'm on, and then the thing's like this big in the middle of
it's
the
just
page. That's so stupid. Well, on the phone, I can see this, but I could also see using stories if you needed to have the story actually show up in a like if you're on a mobile device, like if you're on an iPhone, or if you're on a phone, or if you're on a tablet, having that content maybe show up as like a web view in your app or something like that. I could see where maybe this might be a way of being able to pull in the story idea into your own something that you own. But it just seems like a funky way of doing it if you're just on a website. Like if I went and clicked on some ad or clicked on some link or something, and I ended up on something like what you're showing right now, I just go like, why? What is this? Like, am I looking at slideshows now? Like, I thought this was a website. What the heck's happening here? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think this is the WordPress interface that it takes over. So it's like, it's really interesting because this is like half WordPress interface. You've got over here, you've still got all your little buttons, but then it like totally takes over the admin. It still has the little like a nod to kind of over here to the WordPress editor, the current WordPress editor. But like, oh, what a drag all this is, right? Like, I don't really want all this stuff. I just want to click some buttons. Like that's the beauty of Instagram. At least on this though, your equivalent of swipe up is included for everybody.
It's design tools. It's like if you're using Elementor or Beaver Builder.
Or Canva.
You've got a platform within a platform.
Yeah, it is. Oh, I didn't kick him out, right? Okay, good. It's like that's the point, right? So you can do it, and obviously this is like the first iteration, so we just have to be patient to wait to the next as this gets more developed. But really, the beauty of Instagram stories is that you just click a couple different types of text, right? You're not sitting there and be like, which Google font do you want? Like there's something to be said for having too many choices. Like like you're like, do you want the neon script? Do you want the plain script? Do you want the typewriter script? Just pick one. You know what I mean? Like
ultimately where they should get is to have themes, right? So a designer
themes in the editor.
I'm not talking about WordPress themes. I'm just talking about styles, right? So if a designer should go in and say, you know what, these fonts kind of go together and these colors go together. Schemes, right? Or skins. Skins is the right. Skins is what I'm looking for, because
they're basically rebuilding the WordPress editor because if you start using this, they're just going to put. Why wouldn't you put all your content into this?
But if you give people this many design choices, they're going to make a design mistake.
Well, let's be clear. There are plenty of design mistakes on Instagram stories, but there's also some really innovative, fun uses of it. I haven't found the GIF yet.
Totally get it. But, there's design mistakes, which just don't look good. There's also design mistakes which cause ADA issues.
Well, that's a whole other scenario. But I don't think, at least to my current limited exploration of this, is I don't see GIFs. And let's be real, the GIFs are like the whole entire point of mostly everything. So, I don't know how they're going to, maybe it's a plugin for the plugin. You can add a Giphy, something like that. I don't know, but it's a big part of it. Honestly, this is the same thing as even like TikTok, right? So at some point, are we going to just be able to record snippets of video into there? Like, and then it's like, we're just taking all the social media tools and putting them on a website, which that's also great.
Yeah. I mean, it's from an owning your content standpoint, that's wonderful.
Right.
I hate having to, I mean, I don't have to, but the fact that it seems like really our only choice right now is to stick our stuff in the Facebook silo, in the Instagram silo, in the LinkedIn silo.
Yeah.
It's you definitely too much. I don't want to stick any of my things into Mark Zuckerberg's portfolio anymore. You know what I mean? Like I'm done. And I do, because we don't have much of a better choice. But here comes an interesting question, right? A lot of the big point of Instagram is you're sharing your stories with your followers, and there's that instant comment. I'm assuming these don't disappear after 24 hours. But are we going to go back to the time in the web where there were all of those like network rings, like at the bottom of the website?
The web ring?
Yeah, the web rings. Do you guys remember the web rings? Where you'd put like a footer at the bottom and you belong to like the Ring of Fire or whatever. And then like you'd like click through and you'd be like going to other people's websites, which was like, the original weird network surfing.
I miss web rings. I totally miss web rings. It was a fun thing, man.
Yeah.
I just look at the same handful of sites that I look at like all day long. And I mean, honestly, I'd like to have a way to have some kind of weird introduced into my day.
Yeah, there was an app or a service that was kind of I can't remember what it's called because it killed itself. It was like a thing that would like show you different stuff, and you just go through a random pages. No one knows what I'm talking about.
Mm-mm.
I will probably remember this like in about an hour, but
it was StumbleUpon.
StumbleUpon, that's what it was. I knew it started with an S. Yeah, StumbleUpon was kind of like web ringy, and so you'd like go through, but then it was just serving you up random content from page to page. I actually really enjoyed that randomness. But anyway,
one of the things that
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
One of the things I'm worried about is the fact that like this is owned by Google, and a lot of Google's rules and restrictions are in play to this, and
It's not owned by
it could
Google. It's in the plugin repository, so it's open source. It's made by Google, however.
It's controlled by Google.
Controlled
and
by
it-
Google.
And it appears in Google searches a particular way until they decide, like
they don't
Google
punish
Plus, or like I rest in peace, Google Reader, rest in power.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Google Reader.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
But
Also,
until they decide that they don't want to support it anymore,
R.I.P.
until they're like,
G Suite. Did we just no one even just like just skip on by G Suite dying and turning into Google Workspace? Sorry, just a little.
Right.
Yeah, the whole idea of like copyrighted content and these like very vague things like lack of narrative.
Overly commercial. What does that even mean?
Like I don't
That is
understand.
subjective AF. Overly
Like
commercial.
I was telling you, I work at a church, and we put out a lot of music content, and we play our own songs like live on YouTube, and we sometimes get copyright strikes because our own music is copywritten, but it's also something that we're playing ourselves, and maybe there's like a backing track that's a consistent thing or something, and it picks it up and goes like, this is copyrighted material, and it's like, yeah, we own it.
Yeah, my copyrighted material.
I could see where the John Lennons of this era could essentially have the same problem where they're trying to put out their content, or if it's a movie or something. Like there's a whole bunch of issues that could.
It seems like Google is trying to yet again get into. It seems like Google is yet again trying to get into the social media space, like it kind of did. Dipped it with the Google Plus, but instead of making it its own social thing, it is actually instead just putting those on websites, because that's Google's bread and butter, right? Indexable websites, web stuff, like that's where Google's is. So it's basically cutting into, or maybe it's hoping strategically to cut into the social media pie and bring stuff back to the web, which again, I agree with on a generic philosophical level, but I have suspicions about their intentions and how that's going to work out. Also, I'm really upset about overly commercial. Does that mean small businesses can't use this? Like, you can't put, like, why would that be? Why? I don't understand how that's even something that you can regulate or.
Well, they can use it. It just won't show up in Google search results. So at that point, why even bother?
Yeah, what are you even doing? Then I guess it's just if someone comes to the website, they'll click on it. But then you're not using it for attracting anyone to your site, just once they go there. So
in our private chat, Cosper brought this one up. What have you looked at with this, Cosper?
I think it's interesting that the official Google plugin actually has competition from a third party. Make Stories has basically made a way to, since AMP and Web Stories are open, they have made a way for folks to actually not have to use the Google tools, and it's an alternate interface. So it's basically like saying, instead of using Gutenberg, I'm going to use Beaver Builder or Divi or whatever. These are all different ways of doing the same thing. I just think that it's interesting enough that people think, oh look, Say, did you see in the video there was
I saw gifts. I was like, oh, they win. They've got gifts.
They win.
That's all that is. I hate these interfaces though. I'm still upset about it. Like they're missing the whole thing. And because it's not like the thing about Instagram stories is it's not the entire platform, right? So the devs who are there don't spend their entire time trying to like throw stuff into it. But for both this and for the Google plugin, it's like the whole thing, right? So all of the devs are like, let's cram every feature that we possibly can into it. And again, it's that complexity that takes the fun away from it. Now you're just having to work at another format and put your content in yet another format. Also, fun question. If you make web stories, can you use the new WordPress to Twitter role to break up your web stories
Of course not.
into multiple Twitter posts. This is what I need to know.
None of these things ever work together. That's why
You're
we
gonna
exist.
screenshot your Twitter and put it in your Instagram, your web story, or take your web story. Can you put your web story onto Instagram? Can you put your Instagram story into web story?
So
I don't know all of this. Like the why. I feel like we're in some like weird like.
Well, over on
Not-
our other show that we do, which is a smart marketing show we did earlier, we were talking about accessibility, and one of the things that we brought up was accessibility within stories, and how using like Instagram to make a story or using Facebook to make a story, the text that's actually on that stuff is no longer accessible. Where if you were to use this, it definitely would be accessible.
I mean, a lot of the problem with the accessibility on Instagram is people just have no idea about that. Like, my mom is always complaining about that. She goes, I can't read what you...
We lose Say.
And now we can't hear what she's saying because her connection
Let's
dropped
finish.
out.
Let's finish her sentence for her. I can't read what you posted. So could you change the color contrast?
I'm sorry. Say that again, Steve.
I can't read what you posted. That's a terrible Say impression. That's not even.
That is. Oh my goodness.
So I do think it's interesting with the Make Stories plugin. Unlike being locked in to just doing this specifically through Google AMP, it will let you do an actual export, and you can publish via FTP. So you don't even need to integrate into WordPress or AMP. You can actually own this content yourself. So if at some point Google decides to kill web stories and you're like, well, what am I going to do with all this work? At the very least, you have an actual backed up, exported archival copy that you can do something with. I automatically feel bad for Jason Scott and the folks over at the Internet Archive who are going to have to figure out what to do in 6 years when Google kills Google Stories. But I mean, fortunately they're there and waiting for the inevitable downfall of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can see why they would build something like this using AMP when, like, AMP itself, just like you were saying earlier, AMP itself, its interface is super ugly if you don't actually spend a ton of time trying to get AMP to be the way it needs to be. But then also you're essentially sharing all of these links out on the internet that are AMP-based links. And you could probably end up having a whole bunch of issues, because of that.
She's back.
Right.
Sorry, I finished your sentence for you earlier.
Thank you. I assumed someone would. It was pretty obvious where I was going with it.
Yeah.
I don't think we did that right.
But watch this one. Did you put words in my mom's mouth?
I did.
Okay.
Voice it all.
So
Good thing she doesn't watch this show.
Hi, Say's mom.
It's not a thing.
I really think that okay, so this doesn't appeal necessarily to us who are helping folks make sites for, that are a little more static, that are for businesses that may just be, occasionally posting a blog post, but for the most part, like selling a product or performing a service or whatever. But for, I can actually see this being for like small to medium and even big, because they're showing CNN and Vice and et cetera as examples of publishers who are actually publishing regular content. The people like Gizmodo and folks like that who are churning out content that they regularly need to kind of keep that thing going. I think I wouldn't put my eggs into this basket, but if Google offers you favorable placement, as they do with AMP stories, I mean, it's worth dipping your toes into. I don't like the plugin. I don't want to encourage people to use this, but
But why isn't
You got to
using
tell that to all the
Gutenberg?
people who spend a bunch of time developing all their author boxes.
True.
You remember that? No, it was a huge thing. They're like,
But you
author
could-
boxes.
You could
Next
you
big
could put the
thing.
author box at the very end of it, though.
Yeah, no, but you like, it was all moved to the top and it was like super high featured and everyone's like, oh, author box is the new SEO for everything for authority. And they're like, just kidding. Don't care.
Right.
I mean, how like, is this jumping on a bandwagon or is this the new format of the web?
Absolutely. No, it's jumping on a bandwagon.
Yeah. I mean, maybe like, I think people keep trying, like they're always trying to make it a thing, right? This is like making something a thing. Like, are people trying to make stories a thing? That's what I feel like. Like even the big,
Yes.
like I said, the big web stories from, a lot of the things, they're like, how do we make this content worth engaging? How do we turn text into television is essentially the mindset, I think, here. And I don't know, like you can't, first of all, but is that just what we're doing? So like everyone's like, oh, everyone loves TikTok, so let's just make everything into TikTok.
Yeah, right. And until I can hold up my phone and go, push a button and go, hey guys, so today I was really thinking about, like, then web stories don't mean shit to me.
You have to be able to be like, hey guys, otherwise it's not going to work. That should be in all of the developer like resources. They'd be like,
Yeah.
Can you hold up your phone and say, hey guys, otherwise it's not going to work.
No.
So we could just auto put the little text in there at the top. Hey guys, right? We just
Hey guys.
automatically
Hey guys.
whatever post you create,
You have to
hey guys.
you have to have that tone though. Hey guys.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, so if you can't just again, I haven't delved into it as much as I should have to be able to. So the question is, can you record stuff into stories? Like, I haven't used this at all I'm assuming this isn't accessible through the mobile app. I haven't used it on any sort of mobile thing, only on my computer. How's it going to translate to my iPad? But like, can I record video into it, or do I have to record video on my phone or on my computer and then push it in? Like, I don't know.
Hopefully,
So-
you can't record video and put this in here. Because if you can record video, now you're hosting the video on your own website, which is something we've always said not to do.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So we have 2.5 minutes. Sage just asked this question. I actually, during the duration of this show, found an answer for her. There is an app that publishes web stories called Jump Rope that allows you to export your content that you shoot into Instagram stories, into all the different story formats that are available, IGTV, etc. And it will export for you as web stories. So I can, it seems, maybe not necessarily integrated into WordPress, but I can hold up my phone and go, hey guys.
But that's with another third party. Is Jump Rope free? Is Jump Rope a paid service? Like, what do we do?
Open up a new service called Hey Guys.
Yeah. I think that the
Sorry.
hey.com is already a thing. Just the mail
Hey
thing.
guys, heyguys.io is probably
Yeah.
available.
Guys. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm just like, this whole stringing stuff together, this whole chasing the new fads, like, right, I'm still reeling from having to figure out we have to totally redesign all the websites because of page load speeds, and then we got to do all this other stuff. Now we're making content. Can I just put stories at the top of the website in place of the hero images? And then Google's like, look, you're using all my fun new stuff. And it's going to put everything at the top of the thing. And if we spend all of our time making these stupid content things, when does anyone
Maybe
ever
you can-
have time to market?
Maybe you can pair it with BuddyPress and then put the stories at the top of BuddyPress, and you just created your own Facebook.
I mean, essentially. I've been
Yeah.
using BuddyPress lately.
Yeah.
But no one knows these websites exist. You can have all of these like websites that are like all these features that everyone's spending all this time creating. Like, who has the time to make this stuff or the money besides Mark Zuckerberg? Like,
So we
no
can
small
find-
business owners I know have time to do all this.
Yeah, well, we can finally answer the question. Yes, we can build that one feature of Facebook into your website, and we can now turn on stories. Yay, you have stories now.
Just hop on over to heyguys.io and you'll see it in action.
Maybe Hey
That's
Guys
it.
should be our web ring.
Thank you very much, folks. You
Do
have a
the
good rest
Hey
of your
Guys
day.
web ring.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Go to patreon.com/WP Watercooler where you can support us over there. We'd really appreciate it. There's some folks that helped us out. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this content, hit subscribe, click the little bell. If you're watching this on Facebook, hit the little the button there that says that you like our content. We'd appreciate it. We're also available as an audio podcast. You can go find us wherever great audio podcasts are found. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.